supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana Loyal. Always.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TD to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hunt Palmer coming to you from Red Stick Sports on Essen on this glorious Thursday in the capital city. It is opening day for Major League Baseball. If you hadn't heard, pretty big one over at the box tonight. Pretty big one all weekend long between LSU and Tennessee. We will certainly get you ready for it over the next 2 hours here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Preston Guy is going to come on to talk a little bit of football with us here in the next segment. Preston does some great work with TigerBait.com. There's some transfer portal news on the college basketball front that I want to get to. Saints mock drafts. Of course, in the second hour, we're going to be heavy on LSU and Tennessee. Joe Healy of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team is going to be with us to break down the entire weekend of SEC baseball, but certainly with a focus on LSU and Tennessee. And then Ben McKee from Go Balls 247 is going to join us to talk a little bit more about the Tennessee Vols. But why are we here at Red Stick Sports on Athens? Well, it's because it's their 42nd annual sidewalk sale. You do anything 42 years in a row, it's probably a pretty good thing. And it is. It's a great thing here at Red Stick Sports. They've got unbelievable deals. You'll see the big tent right out in front on Essen. They've got Adidas and Under Armour workout apparel 50% off. They've got Adidas and Under Armour shoes, basketball shoes $29.95. I saw some shoes out in front that were last pair left that are 75% off. If you're an LSU fan looking to head out to the box this weekend, they got all your LSU apparel, and it's 25% off. I just bought some. Just bought an LSU purple dry fit. If you're watching on YouTube, here's my purchase from the sidewalk sale here at Red Stick Sports. So come on by, say hey, do some shopping at a significant discount, and get on by your great Thursday here in the capital city. I have been looking forward to this day for a very, very long time because it's going to be such an unbelievable environment at Alex Box Stadium. The box is a very special place to a lot of us and a lot of you listening, and certainly the old box with its charm and its tradition and its unbelievable history of winning was fantastic. And the new box I love, but some people say struggles at times to rekindle what was the old box. And that's not going to be the case tonight. It'll be at full throat tonight. Doesn't matter that the game's on TV. Doesn't matter that it's a Thursday. They'll be out in full force tonight because it's LSU and it's Tennessee, who are two of the powers in college baseball this year. LSU, of course, a traditional power, and Tennessee very much on the come. An Omaha team 2 years ago, one of the best teams in the history of college baseball last year. I know you'll stop me and go, wait a second, they didn't win anything. I know. Did you watch them? Did you see what they did statistically? They were the best pitching staff in the country. They were the best offense in the country. They had the hardest thrower in the country. They were a dominant force in SEC play, and Notre Dame, to their credit, showed up and popped them in Knoxville and got them in 2 out of 3, so they didn't get to Omaha. No jewelry for that, but a special, special team. This Vols team, 20-6 on the year, 3-3 in conference play. As you know, they were swept by Missouri. They swept Texas A&M last weekend. Look, they started 0-2 this year, and that was a trip out west. They lost to Arizona, then they got beat by Grand Canyon. Since then, they're 20-4. They've got an extra inning loss to Boston College, and then a midweek in the midweek, and then they, of course, got swept by Missouri. It was chilly up there, and they didn't play very well. Missouri certainly outplayed them, but it's still a very, very good Tennessee team. We're going to talk about Chase Dolander and Paul Skenes coming up at 1:30 today, because that is the headline of tonight. But I want to talk about Tennessee offensively first and what Paul Skenes is going to be working against, because I think most of you here that are listening to me have a pretty good sense of who Chase Dolander is. And you probably have a pretty good sense of who Chase Burns is and who Drew Beam is, and we'll talk about them tomorrow because this is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we'll have a show tomorrow. But the offense you may not know very much about with this Tennessee team. These Vols, obviously coming off a year where they won 57 games. They led the country in home runs with 158. They had 8 players on their team hit 10-plus home runs last year. 8 guys hit 10-plus homers. So I look back at that team, and I look back at the last game they played, Game 3 against Notre Dame in the Super Regional at home. Do or die, get to Omaha, or go home. And of the 9 starters that day, 1 will be in the lineup tonight. Jared Dickey will be it. And he only started 25 of their 66 games last year. Essentially, that entire lineup is gone. Drew Gilbert is gone. Trey Lipscomb is gone. Jordan Beck is gone. I don't mean he got tossed. I just mean he's not going to play. Luke Lipschitz is gone. Most all of that offensive punch from a truly historic team last year. Hate him or love him, you can't argue with what we watched last year. It's gone. Now, there are some guys that were contributors on last year's team that are back in this lineup. Blake Burke would have started for pretty much anybody else last year. Blake Burke in this lineup this year is hitting .337 with 10 home runs. And he had a nice year last year, too. There's nowhere to put him. Who are you going to take out of the lineup? You going to tell Luke Lipschitz to sit down? Jordan Beck? Those guys are hitting 20 homers. They're hitting .350. So Blake Burke has now become kind of the focal point of this Tennessee offense. Christian Moore had a pinch hit opportunity in the Notre Dame game last year. That tells you Tony Vitello trusted him to go ahead and do something in the biggest spot of the year. And he'll be in the lineup. And he's hitting .360 this year. He's stolen 11 bases. He's a fire starter for them and is absolutely a very, very good player. They had one of the biggest transfer portal additions of the year. I think the 2 biggest would be Tommy White and Paul Skenes overall. And then I would loop probably Maui Ahuna and Hurston Waldrop in there as the other 2. Hurston Waldrop, of course, from Southern Miss goes to Florida. I think Maui Ahuna, coming from Kansas to Tennessee, was right there in that top 5 of transfer portal additions. Maui Ahuna hit .400 last year for Kansas as their starting shortstop. This year, he missed the first 7 games because of a suspension. There was some tampering alleged, and Tony Vitello and Tennessee were trying to kind of sort through it, and Vitello ended up suspending himself for 3 games, and all of a sudden, Ahuna's back in the lineup, and he got off to a slow start. And I think it was very unexpected. You tell me if you think this sounds unexpected. Tennessee makes a trip all the way out to the West Coast, to Arizona, and Maui Ahuna's parents fly in to watch their son play. And then a couple hours before game time, oh, wait, Maui Ahuna's been indefinitely suspended. Didn't want to tell mom and dad that? I think it was pretty late notice. But he's back in the lineup now, and he's really good. He just hasn't hit to the level that we know that he can. He's only hitting .297 right now. He's got 4 home runs. But I'll tell you this. Last weekend, against Texas A&M, Maui Ahuna swung the bat very well. Saw an opposite field ringing double to left center. He's a left-handed hitter. He's great bat handler, and he's going to be a force for this Tennessee team. Make no mistake, LSU has a better offense than Tennessee entering this game. There's no question to basically anybody. But this Tennessee offense is very good. the problem with evaluating this Tennessee team, and the reason that a lot of people would look at this and go, is because they're trying to live up to a standard that you just simply can't. In this day and age, with these scholarship restrictions and everything that goes into college baseball right now, it's just not that easy to recycle the 158 home runs. LSU could do it in the late 90s. Just go get the next JUCO guy. But it's really difficult to do. Tennessee had lightning strike in a bottle last year. They may never have a team. In fact, they won't have a team that good under Tony Vitello. They'll be a force as long as he's there. They'll probably never have a team that's that good. Mike Bianco's best team didn't do squat. Had a team that wasn't close to that good last year win it. Kevin O'Sullivan had 4 teams better than his 2017 team that eventually won a national title. It's just a matter of getting hot at the right time, and Tennessee didn't last year. But they're still a historic team, and this team is nowhere near that offensively, but they're still very, very good. They overwhelmed Texas A&M last weekend, and LSU did that much the same for, 25 innings over in College Station, and then kind of lost hold of the rope. But this is a very, very good Tennessee team and a good offense. And what the Vols do have as they come into this game, into this weekend, is a bullpen advantage on LSU. I think LSU is every bit as good tonight, if not better, on the mound. And Tennessee's got an advantage, I think, in games 2 and 3 on the mound. And LSU's got a little bit of advantage at the plate. The bullpen is where the Vols really hold an advantage over LSU in terms of stuff, in terms of production, in terms of roles. They've got 7 or 8 guys they can really go to, whether it's Cam Sewell, Xander Sechrist. They can go to Zach Joyce, who's been good for them this year. Andrew Lindsay's got 10 appearances and has been great, 21 strikeouts in 16 innings. They've got a lot of guys, and I'm not going to sit here and bombard you, the LSU fan, who maybe has not seen Tennessee play a game all year, with a bunch of bullpen names. Like, you just have to understand the point that just because LSU chases Chase Dolander, I didn't mean to use the pun there, but gets Chase Dolander out of the game in the 5th inning tonight doesn't mean you've accomplished everything like you may have against Arkansas last week. Because Tennessee's just going to come at you with more arms. So it's time, if you're LSU offensively, to go, okay, let's go. Let's see what you got. Let's see how good this offense is. Because I'll tell you this, that Tennessee offense last year, no matter where they traveled and where they went to Oxford, embarrassed Ole Miss for 3 days. They didn't care who they were facing. That's the kind of production and attitude I expect to see from this LSU lineup, because they can be that good. And they'll get their first truly elite test in this game outside of potentially Brody Brecht, but that was a different kind of deal at Iowa where he was just such electric stuff you didn't know where it was going to be. Chase Dolander is going to throw strikes tonight. LSU just got to stand in there and hit it. So I cannot wait to get inside the box tonight. 7 o'clock is the first pitch. If you want to listen to it, you can catch it on Eagle 98.1, our sister station. 6:30 pregame show, 7 o'clock first pitch. It's going to be a doozy of a weekend out at the box. We are here at the 42nd annual sidewalk sale at Red Stick Sports. If you have children in youth sports, one, they got unbelievable deals on all your youth equipment and belts and baseball pants and bats and hats, gloves, and everything you can imagine for your youth sports. But they also will help you out with uniforms. If you're looking for your 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old's summer team's uniforms, Red Stick Sports is happy to help you out. So come on by here and let them do so, because they love to do it. But this weekend, come by for the deals, because they are fantastic. We'll be here until 3 o'clock. Very, very much excited to be here. All right, let's take a little bit of a break from baseball. I promise at 1:30, I'm diving deep into Dolander and Skenes and what I think may be the greatest matchup in the history of that new stadium. I'll tell you about that coming up at 1:30. But when we come back, I want to bring Preston Guy into the conversation. Preston covers the football beat for TigerBait.com, and we'll talk all things LSU football next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off new 2022 Jeep Gladiators and $8,000 off new 23 Jeep Grand Cherokees. All new Bayou automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TB to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walk.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Henniger, join us for the Friday edition of Handy Time from Rufino's. We start at 10 a.m. with Jimmy Odd's Game Time. Patrick Wright from Dallas for the Women's Final Four, and Kyle Peterson from ESPN join us on the show. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Out here at Red Stick Sports on Essen, their 42nd annual sidewalk sale. Great discounts. Come on by, shop at a discount, and come say hey as we broadcast our show live here until 3 o'clock. We'll head out to the Jim's Firearms hotline right now where we can find Preston Guy. He covers the Fighting Tigers for TigerBait.com. Preston, I will warn you here, the Cubs season starts in 2 minutes. If you hear some sort of massive blood-curdling scream or just absolute distraught nature from me, it's because something's gone horribly wrong early. I'm just trying to prepare you for the next 10 minutes. How are you?
Hey, man, look, it's all forgiven because you brought me on to talk football, And quite frankly, look, this spring football is getting more overlooked than it usually is. I mean, just with the continuity of the team, you got the baseball team, doing their thing, number one in the country, women's basketball Final Four. It's definitely a lot more overlooked than it was a year ago.
No, so what's your opinion of spring ball as someone that covers it, and you've been out there and watched them a little bit? Big deal, not a big deal, important for some, don't get hurt. What's your overarching theme of the month that is spring football?
Boy, you just threw a lot out. I mean, number one, don't get hurt. Keep your roster healthy. Don't put Mason Smith out there in the trenches to develop him. No. He's good. If a guy's banged up, keep him out. That's your top priority. But man, I'm a football guy. I love football. It's great to see it all put together. And you want to develop some depth in certain positions, which you're going to get a good shot at that. It's kind of funny. On Mike and Buddy's show, we did a post-practice report at Tiger Bait this morning, and Buddy counted it up. About 30 to 40% of the roster is actually going to be out this spring. So you're going to get to see a lot of guys like Trey Holly get a lot of spotlight where he normally wouldn't this quickly.
Where have your eyes brought you when you've gone out to watch LSU practice and when you all have kind of done your practice reports over at Tiger Bait?
Well, we go straight to the DBs. It's been interesting to see who is going to get those starting positions. Of course, at safety, you've got Greg Brooks and Major Burns going to be your two starters, but it's up for grabs behind that. Is it going to be Taviano, or is he going to, go to Pop, perhaps play nickel? He practiced at nickel today. Interestingly, today, Denver Harris wasn't at practice for the media availability portion. I believe he may have shown up afterward, but your two starters at corner were Ty Alexander, the transfer from Southeastern, and LaTerrence Welch, who redshirted last year, the highly talented corner out of Acadiana. So some big spotlight on LaTerrence there that he wasn't getting before.
Where do you think Javian Toviano's first impact is on this team this coming season?
I would guess nickelback. He's very talented and can cover that position, and that's a position where you're not on the field every play. They can kind of work you in slowly. Of course, he's going to have to fight off Sage Ryan for that, but, we've seen Sage Ryan have an up-and-down career. I'm not sure if he'll be a starter day one just because you brought in so many talented corners, but it's pretty easy to work in a guy at nickelback. It's a little harder to work guys in at, one of those safety spots, especially when you've got two just, proven safeties back there. I do think eventually his career he will land at safety, but I think his first action will be at nickelback or maybe a fourth corner and a dime set.
Chatting with Preston Guy, you can find over at tigerbait.com. Does a great job covering the LSU football team. How big a loss is Jamar Cain?
Oh, boy, I'm not liking Sean Payton right now. He's coming into Louisiana seeking those roots. It's a loss, but this is LSU. You're going to be able to hire a high-quality coach. They've got Gerald Chapman in place, who's a coaching veteran. He'll be able to do a good job in the interim. What's interesting about this hire is it's an odd time.
Right.
Usually you don't lose a coach in March. So typically it's like you'll lose the coach in November or December, and then you've got 12 days till signing day. So if you want your recruits to sign, you got to go hurry up and go find a guy. There's no indication that Brian Kelly's going to be in a hurry. And he talked about what he's looking for, but he's not even, hinting at any names or anything like that because there is no rush. I'm not sure we'll see a hire before the spring game. I think that it might go into early summer that he does it. And does he promote Gerald Chapman up? Well, he's qualified. He certainly could. Or does he go look outward maybe at a Bo Davis or Texas or someone like that? We'll see, but I have a feeling that if he's not going to take his time, it could be someone completely off the wall.
Brian Kelly did talk today about their intention to move Harold Perkins inside, and that's kind of where they want him to be featured. How often do you think he will be on the line of scrimmage, on the edge, doing some of the things that we saw last year? Is it move all the way in and that's where he's playing, or is he a chess piece?
Man, it's hard to say. He was so good at rushing the passer, but if you're the middle linebacker, you're the middle linebacker. They need you to be the captain of the defense in the center. My presumption is that we wouldn't see him move and rush the edge. Certainly they would gets creative with some blitzes, but I don't see him, on the line being an edge rusher if he's going to be your go-to guy in the middle there.
Is the offensive line going to be a strength of this team?
It should be, man, but they're lacking some depth for spring. Miles Frazier finally came back out there. He's been kind of banged up this spring, and we've seen Kimo McAnally kind of working his spot. But you've got Will Campbell and Emory Jones coming back. Marlon Martinez looks good at center. Of course, he started the bowl game as well. Will it be Charles Turner or will it be Marlon Martinez there? And then you've got Garrett Dolander. I mean, you've got all your starters back. And then you bring in some very talented guys. You got Mason Lunsford coming in from Maryland. Yeah, I haven't seen him out there yet, but, he's a 2-year quality starter. You figure he's not going to ride. He didn't come to LSU to ride the bench, so where's he going to go out there? Maybe center, maybe he transitions there. Maybe he wins out one of those guard spots. And then, of course, the Lance Hurd at Neville, who is coming in with all the confidence in the world. Thinking he might beat out Will Campbell for that left tackle spot is what he thinks.
It was an interesting quote, and I want to go back to this Lance Hurd there because I think what Will Campbell and Emory Jones did last year creates the expectation potentially in the fan base that, hey, this guy's a 5-star. Look what they did last year. Just put him in there. It shouldn't be that easy for a freshman offensive lineman, no?
Man, it shouldn't be. It's very rare, especially at offensive tackle. Typically, you'll see young guys kind of like get worked in at guard. Like, remember Leo Collins when he was young and obviously talented? They didn't want to put him out there on an island at left tackle. So, yeah, it is rare. But, I mean, if you had told me at this time a year ago that your 2 starting tackles would be Will Campbell and Emory Jones, I would have laughed at you and called you crazy. So, we'll see. I do know this. Assuming there's no crazy roster turnover going into next year, you're going to have some good football players not starting for you on offensive line, which is always a good thing.
For sure. You're going to need him at some point down the road. Last thing here, Preston, we appreciate your time. Running back, obviously very thin right now in spring, but as we kind of forecast moving into the fall, what does that look like?
All right, so right now it's going to be heavy Noah Cain. He's clearly your number one, and he's the only one who's available right now. And Trey Holly, they're working him. Actually, Trey Holly in the drills is going third right now behind one of the preferred walk-ons, Malachi Lane. And he's learning. They had this fun little drill where they had boxing gloves on a stick, and they made him fumble. So there's a learning curve there for him. But he's short, stocky, and can move. He's got some really good moves. It'll be fun watching him. So those are your 2 healthy guys right now. Goodwin has been a very good back when he's been healthy, but he's dealt with a ton of injuries. You'd love to get him back. Great change of pace. Noah Cain is a hard-nosed, third down running back. Goodwin's more of an every down, can go out there and change of pace a little bit for you. The guy I'm really interested to see is Caleb Jackson coming on campus out of Liberty. I filmed him a couple times in person, and he is a muscle hamster, man. I mean, he is there is not an inch of fat on his body. He is lean. He's every bit of 5'11", 205. He's got a lot of speed. Maybe not the quickness of Trey Holly, but he's got more top-end speed, I believe. It'll be fun. And then, of course, Josh Williams is your guy, your veteran back who should be back. I assume Josh Williams will be your first running back to walk out there. He's, the complete player, can make his block, catch out of the backfield. Solid runner. You got to love what he did last year. Now, the question mark is John Emery Jr. He's out with academic issues. Seems like there's always something going on with him. And then, of course, when he's on the field, he has fumbling issues. At this point, I wouldn't rely on anything out of John Emery. But you've got 5 other backs there who you should be able to get some quality reps. Remember, Ryan Kelly likes to use at least 4 running backs. Every single year we see that. He likes to mix it up. So you need 4 guys. So if you got 5, you got 1 to spare, but you need 4 out there. And you can expect at least 1 guy to get hurt during the season.
Preston, a pro day yesterday as we get you out of here. Now that the workout portion of this thing is done and all obviously the production, the film, and that's all done, what does your gut tell you about Kayshon Boutte in the draft?
Well, he didn't run a 40 time at the pro day.
Right.
And he got, just destroyed for his 40 times. He ran a 4.50 and a 4.67. He had his bad 40 time was the exact same 40 time as Stetson Bennett. That's not good. I can't believe he didn't run. And I think teams reading between the lines are going to say, hey, you didn't run again because you felt that was your best time you could do at the draft. Man, I don't see – it's sad to say this. I don't think Kayshon Boutte is going to get drafted in the first 3 rounds.
It would be quite a shock if that doesn't happen based on what we thought a year and a half ago, but it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility at this point. Preston, we certainly appreciate your time. You can find him on Twitter at pguy_77. Does great work covering LSU football for TigerBait.com. I'm going to get back to baseball, but I appreciate you jumping on, Preston.
Hey, fun times with baseball. See you later, Hunt.
He is Preston Guy of TigerBait.com. Nothing's gone catastrophically wrong at Wrigley yet. The Brewers do have 2 runners on base, but Marcus Stroman gets the punch out so the Cubs don't give up a run in the first inning. Fit them for rings. We're going to come back and talk about, is this the best matchup in the history of Alec Box Stadium? That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
No-hitters and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Go to FanDuel.com/1045ESPN to sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. Big start for Aaron Nola tonight against Texas. You want to jump into that? Get after it. Don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/1045ESPN to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued non-withdrawable bonus bet that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP on select new 2022 Ford F-150 trucks. $10,000 off plus 0% financing. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TD to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, Pudco can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call Pudco Roofing.
Give us a call.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Football Tigers back on the practice field. We'll hear from Brian Kelly, and we're previewing Game 1. Tigers and Vols. Join us, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We're hanging out here at Red Stick Sports, their 42nd annual sidewalk sale. If you're a Fighting Tiger fan, this is the place you need to be. They have got all your LSU apparel and merchandise 25% off. Big tent outside in the parking lot. You can't miss it here on Essen. Come on in. If you got sporting good needs, whether it's balls, bats, gloves, belts, helmets, gloves, anything you want, they got it here at Red Stick Sports. And they're giving you great discounts on it. They got Adidas and Under Armour basketball shoes for $29.99 out here, so get on by. Look, everybody's a different age. Everybody's had different experiences in the world of sports. There's certainly still people around here that can talk about seeing Pistol Pete Maravich score 60 points in the Cow Palace or whatever it may be. You got people that were still around for Billy Cannon's Halloween night run. Maybe it's the earthquake game or the night the Oranges rained. Maybe it's 97 Florida game or 03 Georgia, seeing Joe Burrow for some of the younger people. Maybe it's Chris Jackson or the Loyola Marymount game that you've seen, and you'll tell stories about that forever. And that's one of the cool things about being a sports fan. And one of those games for me, well, it's probably not for 98% of the listeners, but one of those games for me that I will tell my kids about is the Super Regional Game 1 between LSU and Oklahoma in 2013. That was an LSU team that entering that game was 55-8. And they were a national seed. They were the second-place team in the SEC that year behind the Vanderbilt team that went 26-3 and ended up not making it to Omaha. But that LSU team entered the Super Regional against a good Oklahoma team that was 43-20, but was a 2 seed in their regional. But Oklahoma had John Gray. At that time, he was Jonathan Gray to us. And when I saw that pairing of regionals come out and knew what Oklahoma had, I said, man, this LSU team is so good, but that's one of the things that can derail you. You run into those unbelievably elite, top-end, first-round, surefire MLB pitchers, and I don't care how good your team is. They can run you off the road over 2.5 hours. And I remember going into the box that night knowing that they were going to throw Jonathan Gray. And by the way, we had Aaron Nola, so we weren't in that bad a shape. And the buzz in the ballpark that night, as you would expect for any Super Regional at the box, was unbelievable. But I think, as we've talked about a lot with football, Tiger Stadium's at its best when the opponent is a significant threat. And certainly that night, Oklahoma's lineup 1-9 was not as good as LSU's, but the guy that they were giving the baseball to was a threat. And you knew it. And that big right-hander got on the bump, and he was pumping it, 98, 99 miles an hour, and spinning sliders. It was mesmerizing. And I'm covering the game with my laptop in front of me going, oh, my God. No runs, no runs, no runs, no runs. And then finally, Oklahoma gets a big leadoff double in the 5th. Matt Oberste, I can still remember his name. And they moved him to third with 1 out. And at this point, I'm sitting up there going, this is one of the best teams we've had in a long time, save 2009. And this may be a 1-0 loss if they get this running, because I don't know how we're going to hit Gray. And Aaron Nola, as he did, rose up and got 2 straight strikeouts to extinguish this threat. And finally, LSU broke through off Gray in the 8th inning. Big triple by Jacoby Jones. Tyler Moore pumped one in the gap. And they chased the big fella. And that night, Jonathan Gray threw 7 1/3 innings, gave up 2 runs on 5 hits. He struck out 9 on 116 pitches. And the guy that LSU gave the baseball to, Aaron Nola, threw a complete game, 2-hit shutout with 6 strikeouts and no walks because he was the best pitcher in the country, and he showed it that night. And it's one that I just will never forget because you knew you were watching big leaguers. And a couple weeks later, Jonathan Gray was the 3rd pick in the draft, right behind Chris Bryant of the Cubs. And Aaron went a couple of picks later. And they've both been solid, and in Aaron's case, at times spectacular major league pitchers. And that's what you're getting tonight. These 2 guys are going to pitch in the big leagues. These 2 guys are going to earn in excess of $13 million in signing bonus money in a couple of months. And I think it's potentially the greatest pitching matchup in the history of the new box. I went back and looked. Aaron didn't face anybody as high profile as Gray in his time, and really the only guy at LSU that I would put up next to Paul Skenes in terms of their college profile is Alex Lang since Aaron left. And Alex never faced anybody quite like this. He faced Alex Faedo and Brady Singer in Gainesville, and he faced Kyle Wright at Vanderbilt, but that was in Nashville. Never here. And so in the box tonight, you're getting perhaps the best pitching matchup in the history of the stadium. Now, what expectation does is it breeds disappointment. It didn't that night in the Super Regional. We got exactly what you signed up for. But tonight, man, is it something. You know Paul Skenes. You know what he's been about. I saw a chart yesterday about fastballs in college baseball, and it was a chart that had velocity on the bottom of axis, and on the top axis was whiff rate. Skenes is the hardest throwing starter in college baseball. His on the velocity side was all the way to the right, 98-point-something miles per hour, fastest in college baseball. And his whiff rate's close to the top. There's like 5 guys better. And Dolander was the SEC Pitcher of the Year last year. If you don't know Dolander's story, you just know who he is now. He went to Georgia Southern out of high school. And he had a pretty pedestrian first year. He was 4-3 with a 4.04 ERA for Georgia Southern in the Sun Belt. But his first start that year for Georgia Southern was against Tennessee. And in that game, his first start as a college baseball player against a Tennessee team that went to Omaha, that beat LSU in the Super Regional, he went 5 2/3 innings, gave up only 3 hits and 1 run. He struck out 8 and walked 1. First time out the gate. Obviously, Tony Vitello liked what he saw that day. And he knew the transfer portal was coming, and he said, you know what? That might be one to file away. And so he brought him to Knoxville, and last year, Chase Dolander went 10-0. In 14 starts, 16 appearances. His ERA was 2.39. He threw 79 innings, gave up just 21 earned runs, 108 strikeouts, and 13 walks. He was a consensus All-American. Now, here's something to file away for tonight. They don't overwork Chase Dolander. He only threw 100-plus pitches 5 times last year. Lang and Nola routinely did that in their heyday because you wanted to have those guys pitching in the 6th, 7th, 8th innings of games. His season high last year was 112, and that was in the Super against Notre Dame in an elimination game because Notre Dame beat Tennessee the first game. Dolander pitched game 2 of that Super, and he threw 112 pitches. Last week against A&M, he threw 103. So I don't believe you're going to see Chase Dolander approach 120 pitches tonight. This is not an elimination game against Notre Dame in the Super. This is not a game that Tennessee has to have. Does Tony Vitello desperately want to win this game? Of course. Are they trying to get a national seed? Of course. Did they get swept 2 weeks ago and that makes getting a national seed a little bit more difficult? Yes. Do you risk your best weapon on a Thursday night in Baton Rouge in March because of all that? No, you don't. So watch the pitch count tonight. If he gets up towards 92, 94, 96 pitches, that may be his last inning. And LSU has done a pretty good job of getting starting pitchers out of the ballgame. Now, Brody Brecht couldn't throw a fastball for a strike, but he threw a bajillion pitches and didn't get out of the 4th, and they got him out of the game finally. Well, that didn't go great, but they did. They got a little bit of an elevated pitch count on Hunter Holland last week, even though they didn't score. and he came out for Hagen Smith in the 6th. So LSU's been pretty good at getting to starters. Tonight they get that opportunity. Don't expect Chase Dolander to come out there and walk guys. As I mentioned, last year, he threw 79 innings. He walked 13 guys. This year, in 34 1/3, he's walked 8. Let me give you the other interesting stat on Chase Dolander tonight. This year, we know that his statistics have not been as good as they were last year. But here's why. If you take the first inning and the second inning of his 6 starts, he's pitched 6 first innings, obviously. He's given up 9 runs in the first inning of 6 starts. 1 against Arizona, 2 against Dayton. Missouri tagged him for 4. They had 4 straight extra base hits, 3 doubles and a triple in the first inning against Chase Dolander. A&M got him for 2 in the first last week. Even in the second, he's been dinged for a couple of runs in 6 innings. But here's the deal. 9 runs in the 6th inning this year. 9 runs in the first inning this year. 2 runs in the second inning this year. So over 6 starts, that's 12 innings. 12 innings of work in first and second innings, 11 runs. The rest of the game against Chase Dolander, 22 2/3 innings, 4 runs. 11 runs in the first or second, 4 after that. Think he settles in? I think he settles in. Maybe he's jacked up, wants to elevate some things on accident, and you can tag him. Maybe he's just figuring out the command, what he has that day. I don't know what the reason is, but the statistics are clear. You get to him in the first or second, or you probably don't. Caveat. The caveat is none of those lineups, not Arizona, Dayton, Gonzaga, Morehead State, Missouri, or Texas A&M, is in the same universe as LSU. In fact, if you took all 6 of those teams and put together an all-star team, it wouldn't be as good as LSU's lineup. That's just a fact. So, I'm not going to suggest that if LSU doesn't score in the first 2 innings, Dolander's off and running. I'm just saying you might want to jump on some mistakes early in the game. And let me just tell you, if you do, and the box gets rocking, this is a Tennessee roster that's not used to that. This is a Tennessee roster that was on a team last year that just walked into the stadium and put that power tee on and just deflated folks. You think Oxford was rocking? They beat them 100-0 3 times in a row. Not a lot of beer showers when Tennessee's up 8 runs in the 3rd. But all of a sudden, you make Tennessee realize that they're not the baddest dude in the ballpark. Changes things. That's what I can't wait to see tonight. If LSU can rise up and prove that, hey, you got your best guy out there, ours is better. Biggest spot of Paul Skenes' brief time at LSU. Not sure if this is bigger than facing Texas in game 1 of a regional last year. Didn't go great, but it's biggest spot of his LSU career thus far. And Chase Dolander's been in this spot. Cannot wait to get in the ballpark tonight for a 7 o'clock first pitch. We'll talk to Joe Healy of D1 Baseball in our second hour, as we do every Thursday at 2:15. We'll talk with Ben McKee, who covers Tennessee for Go Vols 247 at 2:30, kind of get a closer look at the Vols. But that's kind of my view. Tonight is the best pitching matchup maybe that we've ever seen in that stadium. We shall see how it unfolds. I want to remind you tonight, or not tonight, about 2 hours from right now, if you're looking for something to do this afternoon, we will be out at Rally Cat Brewing. It's just off Segan, 3:30 to 5:30. They're cooking brats. They got their delicious craft beers out there. We'll be hanging out. You'll see the big 104.5 ESPN truck. I'll be there taking down some beers, watching baseball, getting ready for LSU and Tennessee. We want y'all to come on out. Come on out to Rally Cat Brewing, 3:30 to 5:30. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll take a timeout, close out hour number 1 with some basketball transfer portal news on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is on Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TV to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have.
Jimmy out, Charles, Handegriff, and Max. We're live from the original walk-ons on Burbank, getting ready for the top 10 matchup, LSU and Tennessee at the Box. It's game time, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Closing up hour number 1 here from Red Stick Sports on Essen. 42nd annual sidewalk sale going on. Come on by and shop at some great discounts. 25% off all your LSU apparel in the store right now. I just bought a dry fit shirt. It says LSU baseball on it for 25% off. Come on by. We're closing out hour number 1 here. Basketball transfer portal news that was of interest, in my opinion, is Tulane point guard Jalen Cook into the transfer portal. Of course, that name should sound very, very familiar. He's from Walker. played at Walker High, and then came to LSU for a year. Kind of Eric Gaines and Jalen Cook in that freshman class, and Gaines kind of took some of those minutes late in the freshman year, and Jalen Cook decided he was going to take his talents elsewhere, went to Tulane, and for 2 years for the Green Wave has been a real impact player for them. 2 years ago, he averaged 18 points per game. This past season, 19.9, so basically 20 points per game. He is a point guard. He can distribute the basketball, average 4 assists a game for his career at Tulane, almost 5 this past year. And he shoots it pretty well. He shot it pretty well early in his career at LSU. And you look at his three-point percentages at Tulane, 39% 2 years ago. This past year, 35%. Reason to believe he can knock down shots at this level. He wasn't overmatched, really, as a freshman. So I don't think 2 years later, having started almost 50 games at Tulane, he would have regressed. And so this is a position of need for LSU. It's desperate. I don't know if Jalen Cook wants to come back to LSU. I don't know where he left things as far as the previous coaching staff, as far as where LSU is, or where he wants to look. Perhaps he wants to test professional basketball. I don't know. But that's a name that is local, that is in the transfer portal, and that I would be all for getting. I'm being realistic with the transfer portal additions that LSU can bring in. And I think that you can do a good enough job with the Jalen Cooks and the Jordan Wrights from Vanderbilt to field a very competitive basketball team in the SEC next year. Now, I thought they would be competitive this past year, and the guard play just did not allow it. I think Wright, who's been an SEC starting guard, and Jalen Cook, who looks to be the part of an SEC starting guard, would bolster your guard play pretty much immediately. So I'm for giving Jalen Cook a look. Guy that averaged almost 20 points per game at Tulane, shot the three at a pretty good clip, and dished out 4 assists per game, and has already played at this level before. I think Jalen Cook deserves a look, so hopefully LSU's coaching staff gives them that. Come on by here at Red Stick Sports. We're fired up to be here for another hour. Sidewalk sale goes all weekend long, so get a chance, come on over here. We'll be at Rally Cap Brewing from 3:30 to 5:30, but we still have an hour left to go here on the Hunt Palmer Show. We're going to chat with Joe Healy of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Going to chat with Ben McKee from GoVols 247. A lot of baseball. When we come back, 7-round Saints mock draft. What positions are the Saints targeting? I'll let you know coming up next. As hour number 2 kicks off from Red Stick Sports on Essen, it's the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walk.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP on select new 2022 Ford F-150 trucks. $10,000 off plus 0% financing. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, We are Louisiana loyal. Always.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TD to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Teams taking the field today on the scoreboard right now. Seventh inning in New York. The Yankees lead the Giants 3-0. Aaron Judge hits the first home run of the new season. He had 62 last year, a new American League record. The Braves lead the Nationals 4-2 in the sixth. Orioles and Red Sox are 1-1 in the third. The Brewers and Cubs are scoreless in the third. ESPN's Jessica Mendoza believes the bigger bases and lack of shifts will help teams like the Phillies and Rangers score more.
Both of those teams, because of their left-handed hitters that are going to hit more ground balls to that side, more runs are going to get through. They're going to go through. I don't think the pitch clock is going to impact maybe the amount plus or minus. I do think we're just going to see more action, period.
Jessica Mendoza on Fitz and Harry. The Mets put right-hander Justin Verlander on the injured list with a muscle strain near his right shoulder. And ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reports Alabama freshman Brandon Miller will enter the NBA draft. He's rated the number 3 prospect in ESPN's latest mock draft.
A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're coming to you from the 42nd annual sidewalk sale at Red Stick Sports. What an awesome event this is. We're thrilled to be here. I haven't been in a sporting goods store in a minute. I think that's about to change over the next 20 years of my life, as I've now got a 1-year-old who's going to start playing sports here in a bit. If you've got some youngsters in the house that play youth sports, Red Stick Sports should be your stop for all your supplies and for your uniforms. You got a team and you need some help with your uniforms, that's what Red Stick Sports is here to do. And over the next 3 days, they got a sidewalk sale that's got everything slashing prices. I'm looking at men's apparel half off. They had some shoes out front, 75% off. If you're looking for your LSU merchandise, 25% off of all of it. So come on by Red Stick Sports. We are pumped to be here on this Thursday. And I'm pumped to see Mario Jerez, who just rolled in. Mario, how are you, sir?
Hey, what's up, Hunt? I'm well. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very good. I wanted to just kind of lasso you in here because I'm going to talk some Saints in this segment. And one of the things I saw kind of pop up was a mock draft. And we know that you don't put a ton of stock into whatever somebody throws against a wall on a mock draft, but you're a guy who's called some Saints games, certainly a passionate Saints guy. And I just wanted to bounce some of these off you, maybe not necessarily in terms of the actual prospect, but the fit on the Saints roster is kind of what the things that they should be looking at. And this is a mock draft that I saw on the internet from John Seigler, and one of the first pick he has the Saints at 29 is taking Michael Mayer, the All-American tight end from Notre Dame. He got edged out by Team Georgia over there for the Mackey Award, but his numbers were better than any tight end in the country. And you're talking about a pass catcher who can block. We know the kind of tight ends that BK developed at Notre Dame. What say you about the Saints' needs at tight end?
I like it. They could really use a complete tight end. Juwan Johnson had a great season. They brought him back. He definitely needs to work on his blocking, though, more of a receiving tight end. And then Adam Troutman was supposed to be an effective pass catcher. He's kind of found his way as a blocker. So if you could have somebody who could do a little bit of both, you can get multiple there with your offense. If you're Pete Carmichael, I think that would fill a huge role for the Saints. Like you said, he could block and he can catch passes.
And we know Darren Waller was unbelievable in that Raider offense with Derek Carr. In the second round at pick 40, he's got Mazai Smith from Michigan, really a bowling ball prospect in the middle of a defensive front. Saints defensive line's going to look a lot different next year. Do you think they need to address it early in this draft?
Yeah, interior linemen they need. If you can get somebody quality at that position, that would be huge. But you're lacking bodies there, not just this offseason. The last couple of years, they've lost a lot of players that were really good for a long time. Going back to Sheldon Rankins, now Onyemata, although he wasn't really as effective last season. You definitely need bodies there. And somebody coming from the Big Ten usually have good players at that position. That could definitely serve the Saints really well.
Michigan's as physical as anybody in the country the last couple of years. There's no question about that. What did you see from the Saints defensive front this past year? It just looked like some guys maybe aged out. They built themselves for half a decade on elite run defense and great line play, and it just wasn't there this year.
Yeah, man. I think Onyemata specifically, I hate to single him out, but for whatever reason, going back to before last season, after he served that suspension, he just hasn't been the same player. And the Saints on the interior defensive line, that's really where they've struggled. They've still generated pass rush pretty good. They were in the top half of sacks, I believe, last season, but against the run just haven't been that effective. And you know that the last couple of years watching the Saints, they had that streak of like 50 straight games of not allowing a 100-yard rusher, and they're just not coming off the ball as well in the interior. So they really need to get stronger there. That really wasn't there last season after it was really consistent the prior 3 or 4 years before that.
In round 3 here, they've got the Saints taking Cody Mauch, who is a offensive line prospect from North Dakota State. He's played tackle there. The profile here is as an athletic guard. You look at this Saints offensive front, Andres Pete and Cesar Ruiz, this time next year could be free agents. Do you think bolstering up front on the offensive side should be a priority?
Any competition for those guys, I think, is a good thing. Right now, you would think they're penciled in as starters. Pete has been around for a really long time, but bringing somebody to push those guys could be a good idea. The Saints haven't given up on those guys at all. I don't think. Cesar Ruiz especially, I think, had a much better season last year. But obviously, you want to build depth, but competition for those guys could be a really good thing. I don't know if you heard the story of Scott Shanley. I heard Moscona talk about this a lot. A lot of off seasons, they would bring in a linebacker hoping that he'd be able to beat Shanley out. It just never happened. It seems like he picked up his level of play every single offseason with each different linebacker that they brought in. So maybe you try to employ something similar, and maybe you can push those guys a little bit harder.
Hester's told stories that were similar to that in San Diego as well. Round 4 here in this mock draft, Tank Dell is a wide receiver from Houston that they've got the Saints taking at 115. Tank Dell is 5'8" and a speedster. That seems puzzling to me because I feel like they already have that.
Shaheed.
So where can the Saints bolt? I mean, would you like another playmaker, potential kick returner, or do you need to go with a little more size at wide receiver?
No, I'm with you. I think they need more of a possession receiver. And no offense to Shaheed, I feel like he's maybe a little bit overrated coming into this season. Like, very explosive player. Yeah. You saw what he can do in the jet sweeps. He's very unique, but he fills that same role that the Saints have been filling with other guys. Like, before him, you had Deontay Hardy. Before him, you had Tommy Lee Lewis. I think he fills a certain role, but the Saints still need depth at wide receiver, in my opinion, especially considering what's happened with Michael Thomas the last few years. I know people are excited about him coming back, but I do think you need another possession receiver. I've heard a lot of people bring up Addison from USC, somebody like that who could kind of do it all. I'm with you. I don't think they need another speedster.
And I like the Saints. This is the kind of part of the draft that I like talking about the Saints in, because they seem to find those guys in rounds 4, 5, 6, 7 that turn into really productive players for you. And that's the key to having a really good team, especially when you add a $100 million quarterback who I think is very much league average. You better have a really good team around him if you want to elevate it. So we go to round 5 here, pick 146. They've got Eric Gray, running back from Oklahoma. We know they made the Jamal Williams sign. Is this a spot to go add depth at the running back spot?
For sure, especially in the later rounds. I know a lot of people were hopeful that maybe Tajay Spears would be on the board like a round or two before that, but like you said, now with the addition of Jamal Williams, maybe you look for that in the later rounds. But I do still think they need to build depth there, especially with the situation with Alvin Kamara. You don't know how much time he's going to miss, but with everything we've seen, including the video that came to light, you would think he's going to miss some time. So depth at running back would be a good idea. And Gray's a solid player.
Thoughts if they took Bijan Robinson at 29, if we're talking about running backs, right out of the chute, first round?
Oh, I like it. I think they need somebody who's really good between the tackles. Like, we know what Kamara can do, catching the ball out of the backfield, and Jamal Williams is more from 20-yard line to 20-yard line in, more of a goal line specialist. But if you could have somebody that you can bring, give like 6 to 8 carries a game, like they tried to do with Tony Jones before he got hurt. Now he's with Sean Payton along with a bunch of other former Saints. But yeah, I think they need a good between the tackles running back, like a pure runner to build depth at that position.
Round 5, they've got Tavius Robinson, Ole Miss, edge defender. The Saints, they got to find pass rush from somewhere. If you can find it in round 5, that's phenomenal. Do you think they can wait that long?
Well, he's already half a sack away from matching Davenport's total from last season, so that would be positive.
So am I. But, so is this basketball.
But yeah, not only building depth, but Cam Jordan. Although his level of play hasn't really dipped too much, his stats still say he's an elite pass rusher and really an elite defensive lineman when it comes to pass rush and defending the run. But yes, especially given the fact that you've now given up on Marcus Davenport, you definitely need to find a pass rush specialist, I think. Maybe if it's just on third downs at first, that would be okay, but somebody that you can use to build depth and maybe eventually take over for Cam Jordan, the way Marcus Davenport was not able to do.
They got to find pass rush from somewhere, and so I think they should probably address that pretty early in this draft. And this is the part of the mock draft where you could put a offensive guard from Toledo in there that nobody cares about, or you could throw Stetson Bennett, quarterback from Georgia, in the 7th round. If the Saints took Stetson Bennett, what would be your reaction?
Boy, that would definitely be an interesting pick. I think Stetson at least deserves a chance, man. I know that a lot of people think he's flawed in some parts of his game, but the guy is a winner. The guy has seen a lot. I don't think he's really helped himself with maybe some of the stuff he's said and some of his antics. That's why you see him mocked in the 7th round, but I would take a flyer on Stetson. Why not? If he's your 3rd string, why not?
Well, nobody takes flyers on quarterbacks like the Saints because they refuse to take one in the 1st or 2nd round, so you got to throw name the ones they've Ian Book, and who the one that they took that they thought was going to be the next guy, and he ended up just not being any good at all in the middle of the Peyton years.
Yeah, Garrett Grayson. I'm like 90% sure, Hunt. I'm like 90% sure they only took Ian Book because Bill Parcells told Sean Payton to, and because he's a Notre Dame guy. That's the only reason why I think they took him.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. If I had to tell you a position that the Saints give me 2 positions, 1st round and 2nd round, where should the Saints be targeted?
I think wide receiver is definitely one. Like you said, you never know what's going to happen with Michael Thomas. And either way, really like Olave. I think he can break out really in his 2nd year. But I think you need to build depth there, and I think you kind of need an insurance piece because you don't know what's going to happen with Michael Thomas. And secondly, I'd probably go defensive tackle. I mean, you've just lost so many bodies there, and that was the strength of the defense. Like, the secondary had been really good the last few years with Lattimore, Marcus Williams, those guys. But like we were talking about a few minutes ago, the interior of the defensive line just hasn't really been that good, and some of it's reflecting the stats, but really they just need to get beefier down there. It was not the same Saints defense last year as the 3 years before that, and they really need to improve in the interior defensive line.
All right, Pellies tonight. They are in Denver. What do we think?
Man, it's going to be tough. We're awaiting the status of Nikola Jokic. He's listed as whether or not he plays, I think the Pelicans will make this close. You at least had a day of rest before this last game of the road trip, but they've been playing better the last 6 games. Hunt, 5-game winning streak before they lost to the Warriors. They did blow that 17-point lead, which was unfortunate, but specifically on offense, I think they've been a lot better. You're not seeing as much ISO with B.I., with McCollum. They're moving the ball around. They're utilizing Jonas Valanciunas much better. So I think the Pelicans will definitely cover tonight, to answer your question.
Most important thing,
yes.
financial strategies.
But there's a chance that they can mess around and win the game if they play at the same level they've been playing the last 6 games.
Blender should be fun when they get home for a little homestand here, and they're coming down the home stretch. Mario, appreciate your time, man.
Yes, sir, Hunt.
He is Mario Jerez. We're here at Red Stick Sports, their 42nd annual sidewalk sale. Come on by here on Essen. Shop at a discount. They got your LSU merchandise and gear 25% off. We're here until 3 o'clock. We'll take a timeout, come back with a little bit more. We'll have Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Guy. We're going to talk a little SEC baseball for the weekend and focus on LSU and the Vols tonight from the box. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. In March, we're telling you about Trey Godfrey. Trey has dedicated his career to bettering his hometown, his city, that is Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He currently is the Senior Vice President of Policy for the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. In his work there, he oversees education policy, trying to better the lives of young people in our city. It's such an admirable cause, and that's why Trey is a champion of Louisiana. If you know somebody like Trey, you know a nonprofit that's doing unbelievable philanthropic work in our city, we want to tell their story. Go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate a person, nominate a business, nominate a nonprofit to be a champion of Louisiana like Trey Godfrey. Trey Godfrey is March's champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Moon Griffon is back, the voice of Louisiana politics. On Friday's OTB, we will recap Game 1 of the epic LSU-Tennessee matchup. Who won the duel between Skenes and Dolander? Plus, it's Final Four day. It's Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Beautiful Thursday here in the capital city. We're here at Red Stick Sports, 42nd annual sidewalk sale. Come on by. Shop at a discount. Just about everything in the store is discounted, and there's a huge tent out front with stuff up to 75% off, whether it's youth sports, just merchandise for yourself, shoes, balls, bats, gloves, apparel, LSU stuff. They got you covered here at Red Stick Sports. Time to head out to the phone lines. Jim's Firearms Hotline. That's where we find our guy Joe Healy of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Joe, how are you?
Doing well. Beautiful day here in North Carolina as well, and I think we could all use feels like the last few weeks have been pretty wet. It's been pretty chilly in a lot of places, so here's hoping that we get some good weather all around the southeast this weekend.
You may not have heard, but there's a pretty big game tonight between LSU and Tennessee here in Baton Rouge. We will get to that very, very shortly, but I do want to go back to last weekend. Importantly, Dansby Swanson just ripped an RBI single for my Cubs. Dansby Swanson went to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is 6-0 in SEC play. That's a beautiful segue by a true radio pro there. How for real is Vanderbilt right now?
Yeah, they look for real. I mean, I think at this point, it's just one of those deals where I just have to admit that I was pessimistic about their offense, and I was probably wrong. Probably wasn't giving enough credence to the fact that they had played a really tough schedule in the early season. You know, they played in that tournament opening weekend. They played against UCLA that has high-end arms, obviously, and we probably – that combination of that and the fact they were bringing in a lot of newcomers to the offense probably meant that we should have given them a little more patience. But, you know, patience is in short order a lot of times, and we're quick to pass judgments on it. And I think we just got this one wrong collectively. I mean, it's not a star-studded lineup. I mean, Vanderbilt has obviously had a lot of, Dansby Swanson being one of them, a lot of stars through the years on the position player side. This lineup is not bad, although I think a guy like a freshman in R.J. Austin could be eventually that, and Enrique Bradfield Jr. obviously is that. But outside of those guys, I mean, it's a fairly anonymous lineup, but man, they're really swinging it well right now. And of course, we do have to give the caveat of they've faced a team in Ole Miss that is really beat up on the mound, and a team on Mississippi State that is kind of lost on the mound. And so it's not going to be this good the rest of the way, but it's pretty clear that they're better than we were giving them credit for.
I wouldn't be shocked, quite honestly, if we did this segment next Thursday and I just didn't bring up what happened to Mississippi State the past week because it'll be old news at that point. But we're still at the point where it's relevant. 0-6 with just lopsided disasters. What is there to say?
Yeah, not much else. It kind of reminds me of like in college basketball season this past season, and they kind of figured it out. But like it seemed like every national college basketball writer or podcaster was like, you know, we keep talking about how Kentucky's struggling, and eventually I guess we just kind of have to assume they're not as good this year. But it's kind of the same deal here where it's just there's not – the problems are so obvious, and they've not been corrected. And, you know, listening to reading guys like Robbie Falk, who covers that team day to day, and listening to, you know, the coaches post-game with Chris Lemonis and stuff, it seems like there's just a complete loss of answers right now. And that's a tough place to be, and that's different from what we've seen. I mean, you look at last year's Ole Miss, and when they were at their bottom, which was 7-14 in the SEC, there was still a lot of optimism where it's like, hey, this offense is pretty good on paper, and these players are, even on the mound, are really talented. With Mississippi State, we've just seen such little evidence defensively and on the mound in particular that they're really going to be able to compete at a high level in the league this year.
We're going to talk about LSU and Tennessee, who both had nice series wins last weekend, but I want to talk specifically about Arkansas last weekend. Impressive effort by Hunter Holland and Hagen Smith to hold LSU down for 10 innings, and then kind of lack of pitching on Saturday where LSU gets the sweep in the doubleheader. What do you think of Arkansas and how they stack up against teams maybe not LSU?
Yeah, against teams not LSU, I think they're in that upper crust still. You know, they've been doing a really nice job kind of piecing it together on the mound with all the injuries they've had. And I just think they came up against an LSU offense that's going to do that to a lot of teams this year. And by the way, if the series had been, had been in Fayetteville, maybe it'd be a different deal. But the reality is I think this is kind of what Arkansas is, which is I think Hunter Holland has proven himself to be a legit Friday guy in this league, and Hagen Smith is a real weapon out of the bullpen. I still don't know if that's the decision I would make, but those guys have forgotten more baseball than I know, and clearly it's working right now. So on Fridays, they are loaded up and ready to go. The next 2 days are kind of more coin flips, and honestly, with the offense as good as theirs, it's not LSU's offense, but it's pretty doggone good. You can kind of bet on, hey, we're going to win a lot of Fridays with those two guys, and then if you're telling me we're going to have coin flips on Saturday and Sunday because our offense is so good, it's going to keep us in most games. And oh, by the way, Will McIntyre, Dylan Carter, Cody Adcock, all the guys who are getting time, like those guys are not bums. Like, they're good pitchers. I think they're going to take that where it's like, hey, we're going to win a lot of Fridays and we'll take our chances on winning another game throughout the weekend with offense or with a pop-up pitching performance. So they're not LSU, sure, but no team really has proven to be that yet this year, and I think that's just kind of what we saw last weekend.
Chatting with Joe Healy, we do it every Thursday here at 2:15 on the Hunt Palmer Show. SEC Extra is such a great resource over at D1 Baseball. I invite everybody to go over to d1baseball.com and check out the SEC Extra package. Highway to Hoover is a podcast with he and Mark Edwards that I listen to every single week. Awesome information on the Southeastern Conference. All right, Joe, let's go to this coming weekend. We'll get to LSU and Tennessee at the end, but I think a fascinating weekend in College Station, Texas A&M and Ole Miss. What are you looking for?
Yeah, I called this. I was on a Sirius XM show with Mike Farron and Mike Rooney the other day, and I called this the Anxiety World Series, just because you've got 0-6 and you got 1-5 in the league, and depending on who loses the series, you're going to have someone coming out of it at 2-7 or 1-8 or worse. Of course, that's also on the table if it's a sweep.
Yep.
And that's a really deep hole to work out of in this version of the SEC. Now, we are starting to see the SEC, like every year we go into the SEC saying, man, where are the bad teams? Like, who's going to lose games? And inevitably we find those teams, right? Mississippi State, Georgia's really struggling. So there are wins to be had in this league, but not a lot, right? And so if you're starting off 1-8, 2-7, like, I don't really care what happened last year with Ole Miss. Like, yes, that does give you some – maybe like a proof of concept that you can come back from a hole like that to do great things, but I wouldn't bet on it, right? So this is a really important series for these two teams, and I think it's a little bit more important for A&M just because I'm not sure. With Ole Miss, you're kind of like, okay, when Hunter Elliott comes back, maybe they'll get a little bit of a bump on the mound, and they do have some younger pitchers they're bringing along a little more slowly that maybe those guys like Hunter Elliott last year, by the time we get to May, they're a different pitcher. It feels like there is still some growth to happen with Ole Miss. And, oh, by the way, I like their offense better than anything A&M has. But with A&M, their offense, I think, maybe just kind of is what it is. I think it could get a little better, but I don't think it's necessarily one of the 3-4 best offenses in this league this year. And then they're in a position where they're looking for answers on the mound. They switched out their Sunday starter last weekend to start a freshman, Justin Lampkin. It didn't go great. They'll probably give him another turn at that, but between Detmer and Wansing and now Lampkin, those guys have been up and down so far this season. I'm not sure I have a whole lot of faith that's going to be a rotation that, unless they get better, and they could, but performing like they are right now, that's going to be a rotation they're going to have to try to win some games in spite of now as opposed to because of.
Kentucky right now is 22-3. They are ranked 18th in the country. They are 5-1 in league play. Do you buy them as a regional host contender, a national top 8 seed contender, or a team that's playing good baseball for the first 6 weeks that needs to prove it against better competition?
I think I buy them as a potential regional host. National seed feels a little rich to me, but if you're telling me they're going to be in that 10 to 20 range in terms of where we put them in the pecking order, I think I buy that. The pitching is real. I've put it this way before, and I may have said it on your show, if so I apologize, but the guys that are doing it for them right now are all guys that at various points of their Kentucky careers we thought were really going to be dudes for them, and they've just had a lot of injuries in the mound the last few years, and they're just all healthy right now. And so I think what we're kind of seeing is they've built up a little bit of a war chest of pitchers, and they've all kind of gotten healthy and gotten better at the same time, and I think that's what we see there. The other thing that's working in their favor, and look, it's a little too early to really play this game, but they've got a lot of RPI stuff working for them. They're number 1 in the RPI right now. And again, I know it's early, but when you look at stuff like Elon, a team that I don't think most people thought much of, myself included, coming into the season, well, Elon's a top 30 RPI team right now. And if they get some breaks like that in the RPI, it could be a team that, okay, maybe they go 16-14 in the SEC, but there are plenty of examples of SEC teams hosting at 16-14 if the RPI is in the top 10, 12 or so, Kentucky could end up on that path. My one concern is they don't have a lot of fire. It's a very good offense, but it is not a physical offense. And in this league, if you're going to have games where you fall behind 5-0 in the second inning, and my question is, against good competition, do they have enough offensive firepower to play from behind? That's kind of my question on them. But, even if the answer to that is no, I think there's still a good chance they win enough games to get in that conversation.
Nobody in my listening audience has any questions about Paul Skenes, but they would probably like to hear about Chase Dolander, and obviously understand he was the SEC Pitcher of the Year last year, and some of the numbers aren't quite as good this year. What have you seen from the Vols righty?
Yeah, I think he's still largely the same guy. And it's important to note I'm not an evaluator. A scout could probably give you like a real detailed breakdown there, but I think he's largely the same guy. I just think it's a couple of things. One is baseball is a funny sport. And, these things, just fluctuations in performance just happen. But I also think he was largely a mystery last year. And there was a period of time after he got hit with a line drive by now his teammate, Zane Denton, when Zane Denton was on Alabama. He missed a few weeks. And so I think there was a period of time where if you hadn't seen him and then he was gone for a couple of weeks and then he comes back, there just wasn't a whole lot of tape necessarily on him. And now we've had an entire offseason of understanding who he is as a pitcher. I think there's not a lot. If I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm not overly worried that he's getting hit a little bit more. He's still missing a ton of bats. This league is good. I'd be a little more worried about Chase Burns just because the feedback I've gotten on him is that, he's still kind of mostly just a two-pitch guy. And if one's not working and you can eliminate one, he's a little bit more hittable. The stuff is still electric, but no pitcher is talented enough to just win on one pitch at this point. So he's the one I would, if you're going to be worried about one or the other, I would be a little more worried about Burns than Dolander at this point.
My assertion in the first segment of my show today was that Tennessee's offense is good. It's just not what they were last year, which was historic. Is that an accurate kind of depiction of what they've been thus far?
100%. And I've said that on Highway to Hoover a couple times. Like, if you're going to nitpick Tennessee's offense, it's that last year at the bottom of their lineup, they had a guy like Evan Russell who hit 14 bombs, and Cortland Lawson, who was just a really solid offensive player who had some sneaky pop. This year, it feels like they're still cycling through options at the bottom of their order to figure out who they want in those spots. So it's not as deep 1 through 9 offensively. Still a very good offense, but again, you and I have talked a lot so far this season about how good all these offenses are in the league. So a very good offense could be a middle-of-the-pack offense within the context of the SEC, and I think Tennessee's better than middle-of-the-pack in the league, but there are at least a handful of offenses, LSU, Florida, maybe Arkansas, that I would take before I took Tennessee.
All right, how do you think it goes this weekend, LSU and Tennessee?
Well, first off, I mean, the big matchup is going to be, as you kind of alluded to, the Tennessee starting rotation, whether it's because our expectations were just too high or because we expect them to just pick up where they left off, the numbers haven't been as good. So the key matchup here is how does that starting rotation fare against the juggernaut that is the LSU offense? My thing is if Tennessee can't, early in games especially, with the starting pitchers, can't find a way to slow down the LSU offense, with it being a home series, I think LSU could really kind of runaway train this thing, because Tennessee has shown, look, we know Mizzou is better. We know it was probably just a bad weekend, but last year's Tennessee team, even on their worst days, is not getting swept by Mizzou. Probably doesn't even lose a game to Mizzou, right? So they are a little bit more vulnerable here. So I do think there is a chance that, LSU just clearly is the better team and runs Tennessee off the field a little bit. If Tennessee wins a series, I think it's because they get juiced up for this. The crowd is going to be electric, absolutely. So they get juiced up. They play really well because this team does play on emotion. We know that about the Tennessee program. And if they pitch well, I think they get the wind at their back a little bit, especially if they're the first team to maybe do a little something against Paul Skenes. I mean, that would be incredible for your confidence if you can play even with Skenes on Friday or Thursday in this case, because so few teams have done it.
He is Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Joe, thanks so much. Enjoy the baseball this weekend. We'll talk next Thursday.
All right, talk to you then, Hunt. See you, buddy.
We're here at Red Stick Sports on Essen, 42nd annual sidewalk sale. Come on by, shop at a huge discount, whether it's LSU merchandise, youth sporting goods, shoes, hats, bats, gloves. It's all here at Red Stick Sports, and we're pumped to be here on this Thursday. We'll take a time out, come back with Ben McKee. He of GoVols 247 covers Tennessee, and he'll tell us what he thinks about Tony Vitello's team that we'll see inside the box later this evening. Come back with us. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The tournament's heating up, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. That's right, because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/1045ESPN and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net. UConn. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/1045ESPN to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issues and non-withdrawable bonus bet that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you're somebody who knows a gaming problem wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TV to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
I had to leave my parents. I had to move schools. I don't know anyone here. Everything keeps changing. Why is this happening to me? I'm sure glad you're here.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you.
Hannigrove, join us for the Friday edition of Handy Time from Rufino's. We start at 10 a.m. with Jimmy Ott's Game Time. Patrick Wright from Dallas for the Women's Final Four, and Kyle Peterson from ESPN join us on the show. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Just 4.5 hours until LSU and Tennessee do battle inside the box in what I've called potentially the most anticipated regular season series in the history of the new stadium. That's because of what Tony Vitello has built the Tennessee brand into be in his short time in Knoxville. Ben McKee covers those Vols for Go Vols 247. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Ben, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. Tell me kind of the elevator pitch into how Tony Vitello took a team that was, quite frankly, in the bottom half of the SEC in baseball in just about every category, including facilities, and created a national brand.
Well, yeah, all those strong feelings that you have towards Tony Vitello and all those strong feelings that LSU fans have kind of stored up these last couple of seasons and are ready to unleash on Tennessee this weekend. And it's not just LSU. A lot of SEC teams feel the same way about Tony Vitello. If you hadn't noticed in the college baseball world as well, that is why he's been able to turn Tennessee baseball around. To be quite honest with you, that passion and that edge that he has to himself, it's really been able to bring people together here in Knoxville and at the University of Tennessee together and care about baseball, because they did not care about baseball pre-Tony Vitello. And you had some really nice seasons under Rod Delmonico there in the 90s and the 2000s. But since the Rod Delmonico era, it just wasn't good. And I don't necessarily blame Tennessee fans for not caring about baseball, because the product on the field was just so bad. But they needed a Tony Vitello, a young guy who had a ton of energy, kind of had an edge to him. And people absolutely loved him because of his personality. And then obviously the winning that he's been able to do has helped as well. But all that passion that irritates opposing fans, that same passion has been what's been able to allow him to be successful. And of course, as a lot of SEC fans know, he's terrific on the recruiting trail and has done a great job of getting talented players in here. He's got Frank Anderson, arguably the best pitching coach in America, on his staff, and that's been absolutely huge, as you can imagine. So several different reasons, but I think the biggest reason is just his passion and his edge has allowed them to turn what was a bad product into a really fun product.
You just told the exact story of Will Wade at LSU in basketball, just on the baseball side of things in Knoxville, and everyone disliked LSU from a national media perspective, and in the Southeastern Conference, it disliked Will Wade, and nobody around here cared because everyone loved it and they were winning games. How did Tennessee fans react to a player getting ejected in a super regional game, and some things that happened earlier this year with a self-imposed suspension for a weekend with the Maui Ahuna situation? Is it just he's our guy and we love it?
For the most part, yeah. And that's kind of with any fan base, as I'm sure you've experienced with Will Wade and Ed Orgeron and situations like that. I mean, every fan base is going to stick up for their own, but whether they should be or whether they shouldn't be. I mean, look what Alabama basketball fans just went through with Brandon Miller, and they defended him until the end of time. And you probably shouldn't be defending him. Not necessarily saying that he was the reason that tragedy happened, but he played a small role in it, whether on purpose or not, and probably should have missed a little bit of time. But if you ask an Alabama fan, they would think that you're absolutely crazy and trying to just attack their team for no reason because they're so good. So there's obviously a little bit of that. The Maui Ahuna situation at the beginning of the season, it was obviously a situation enough to where Tony Vitello did feel the need to self-impose a weekend suspension, but it was also kind of overblown in terms of the deed that was done. I think a lot of college baseball fans were hoping that he committed more of a violation than he actually did, because they wanted to see Tony Vitello suffer, because he's kind of come off wrong for several different instances over the years. So that's one that they kind of defended him because it wasn't as serious as it was being played out to be outside of Knoxville. But when you turn around and you get ejected in a super regional game, or one of your players in the middle of an at-bat, and your pitching coach that we just talked about being one of the best in the country, he gets ejected as well. And that wasn't the reason that team last year that was so good, in my opinion, without a doubt, the best team in the country. That's not the reason they came up short, but that same passion and energy that we talk about, it has hampered them at times, and I think it did hamper them in the Super Regional and kind of threw them off their game, and they weren't able to rebound. So they stick with him. They love the passion and energy that he provides and kind of his coaching style. But I think there's been times as well where they recognize that, okay, maybe it would be best in that situation to tone it down just a little bit because it did hurt you there.
This is a pretty college baseball savvy market here, and my listenership's got a pretty good handle on the Southeastern Conference, specifically when it comes to Chase Dolander, who we've talked about a lot today. If you could do us a favor here and tell us about who we'll see on the mound tomorrow and then again on Saturday in Chase Burns and Drew Beam, who are also uber talented.
Yes, they are. And Chase Burns is just as naturally talented as Chase Dolander is, and not this coming draft, obviously, because Burns is just a sophomore this year, but he'll be in contention to be the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft, the 2024 draft. And I would be surprised if he's not a top 5, top 10 pick at minimum, because his stuff is that good. He's a guy that Tennessee had to sweat it out with when it came to the MLB draft coming out of high school. He was touching 100 on the radar gun in high school, and scouts absolutely loved him. But he wanted to come to Tennessee and learn from Frank Anderson, and he has certainly reaped the benefit of that decision so far. And he just has a lot of natural stuff. I mean, the velocity is there. He's been working on his secondary pitches. When he has gotten in trouble, it's because teams are laying off of the slider and those other secondary pitches and just sitting on that fastball and taking advantage of it. But he's uber talented, as you mentioned, just as talented as Dolander, and honestly kind of very similar pitchers as well. So LSU's lineup is stacked from top to bottom. There's no doubt about that, and that'll be a fun matchup on Friday night down there in the box. And then Drew Beam, a little bit different than Chase Dolander and Chase Burns. You know, Burns and Dolander have that big league stuff, so to speak, that really plays well and gets guys out, where Drew Beam's more that old school type of pitcher who pitches to contact, and he's going to pound the zone and throw strikes all day long. And he's very efficient, allows his defense to work for him. And not that he's, pumping in 85, 86 mile an hour fastballs or anything. He's sitting mid 90s to, 92, 93, somewhere in there for the majority of the game. And he has good secondary pitches. It's just not the big league stuff that gets you drafted in the first 5 to 10 picks that Burns and Dolander have. But he's just as efficient, just in a different manner. And again, that's just throwing strikes and really having great command of all of his pitches.
And then offensively for this Tennessee team, you can't replace all that we saw last year. That was just a juggernaut offensively. But I think Blake Burke's a name that people down here understand, 10 home runs and a near 340 batting average. Who are the other 2 or 3 guys in this Vol lineup that need to help carry the mail for the offense?
Yeah, I'd say Christian Moore and Jared Dickey. Christian Moore, Blake Burke is Blake Burke, like you just mentioned. Yeah. But Christian Moore was kind of viewed as the same type of recruit coming out of high school, one that, again, Tennessee had to kind of walk through the draft nervously because they were scared that he may sign with a team, but they were able to get him to campus. And I think he's having one of the more underrated seasons in the SEC to this point, because everybody talks about Tennessee's pitching, their starting rotation. Everybody talks about Blake Burke, but Christian Moore there in that 2-hole has been really efficient. He's hitting for average. He's hitting for pretty good power. And he's done a really good job of staying patient at the plate and drawing walks and getting on base for Blake Burke. So he's somebody that has to play well in order for Tennessee's offense to have success, because this is a Tennessee offense that doesn't have anybody back from last year outside of the Blake Burks and Christian Moores. And they played a good bit as freshmen last year, but they were behind Luke Lipschius and Jarrell Ortega. They kind of played a pinch hit role and some spot starts in the midweek. And again, they had success, but they weren't the face of the lineup. And now they're having to carry the lineup. So this is a Tennessee lineup that is continuing to adjust and kind of figure out its own way of life and a new identity, because, again, all those players from last year, the Jordan Becks, Drew Gilberts, Trey Lipscombs, Evan Russells, they're all gone. And this is a new identity for this offense. And Tony Vitello has been trying to piece those puzzle pieces together. And it seems like he's starting to find the best lineup for him. And it starts with Christian Moore and Blake Burke there in the middle of the lineup. And then I'd also add Jared Dickey. I think he is somebody that fans probably aren't aware of as much, but need to be aware of. He's been talked about as a potential first pick and just has a lot of natural talent in the box, kind of a quirky athlete, and I say that in as good of a way as possible. Kind of plays a couple of different positions, catcher, outfield, can play first. But he just always – the ball always finds the barrel of his bat, and he gets on base frequently and hits for a lot of power and has been about in the 5-hole for most of the season. So those guys in front of him can get on base, and Jared Dickey's one that can do a lot of damage behind them.
Ben, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the baseball this weekend. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you all as well. Thanks for having me.
He's Ben McKee of Go Vols 247. We're here at Red Stick Sports. It's their 42nd annual sidewalk sale. Get on by here, shop for some sporting goods at incredible discounts here at Red Stick Sports. We'll come back and close it out next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. Look, if you are unhappy with your current closet situation because you don't have the room you need, you're not sure where to start, you're stuck in the morning trying to shine a flashlight because your significant other's still sleeping, you just can't get it figured out, how about the closet of your dreams? Where does it start? One Bath and Closets. Free consultation, free for David Duvall and his team to come in, give you a questionnaire, say, okay, what do you have here? What do you need? What would you like? And then they can make it happen for you. And guess what? If you tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you to One Bath and Closets, then they're not going to charge you to rip out your current closet. They're not going to charge you for the labor to install the new one. They're just going to charge you for what that new unit costs. Such a great deal, such a great team over there at One Bath and Closets. I can promise you this. They're not going to cut corners over there. Come back 3 weeks later and fix something because they didn't do the right job. No. That's not how it works at One Bath and Closets. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Check out the website for testimonials, for great pictures of all their work, and to request that free consultation. Onebathandclosets.com is the website. Onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TV to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance, with the latest in office technology from desk.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Football Tigers back on the practice field. We'll hear from Brian Kelly, and we're previewing Game 1. Tigers and Vols. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Such a cool sale here at Red Stick Sports. Their 42nd annual sidewalk sale. You do anything 42 times, it's working, and it's awesome. There's a reason people are coming back. Everything in this store, everything, is 20 to 75% off. All LSU merchandise, 25% off all weekend long. 50% off all bags at Adidas and Under Armour. Can't miss it. We've been here all day and been thrilled to be here at Red Stick Sports. So come on by on Essen all weekend long. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right. Brian Kelly opened his press conference today mentioning that he shot an 83 at Augusta National once, which is kind of hard to believe. But, Hunt, you could beat Brian Kelly's number at Augusta. Take it or leave it.
I got to leave it. I don't play golf anymore. My game is shot. There was a time where I think from the member tees I could do better than that. Buzzy shot 72, but right now I stink. I probably can't break 90.
All right, Brandon Miller is entering the draft. He will be the second pick after Wilbur. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. He's mocked 3, 4, 5 usually. I wouldn't hate it if somebody took him at 2 because he's an incredibly skilled, talented player. But I'll leave it. I think that somebody will probably jump in front of him.
All right, I wonder who wrote this one. The Cubs are going to win the World Series. Take it or leave it.
Beck, you take it. It's 4-0 in the
I'll
sixth
take it.
against the Brewers. It's a domination at Wrigley. Stroman's on fire. Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, RBI single. This team fit them for rings. I don't see how they lose a game all year. You got to take that.
I agree. Cold craft beer. Take it or leave it.
You got to take it because that's where I'm headed right
take it.
Very second. From 3:30 to 5:30 today over at Rally Cap Brewing. We're going to be hanging out. They're grilling brats out there at Rally Cap. They got all their delicious craft beers out there. So I'm about to pack up the stuff right this very second. I'll be there from 3:30 to 5:30. Going to be watching some Major League Baseball. See the Cubs win this thing. We'll sing Go Cubs Go. We'll take down the Brewers, destroy their entire franchise. Be 1-0, first place in the division. That's what we're looking for out at Rally Cap Brewing. And then we're going to head out to the box. So if you're looking for something to do on this gorgeous Thursday before you watch some baseball, whether at the box or at home, invite everybody out to Rally Cap Brewing just off of Skenes. That's where I'm going to be watching some baseball. So I'd very much will take that all day long over at Rally Cap. Thanks again for hosting us here, Red Stick Sports. We certainly appreciate it. If you missed any of the show, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab. You can also find us on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, on Google, or on YouTube, where y'all are hanging out in the Bayou Ford chat. We talked LSU-Tennessee. We talked football with Preston Guy. Is this the best matchup in the history of Tiger State of the box? I don't know. It could be. Saints mock draft with Mario, Joe Healy. It's all there on demand. LSU and Tennessee tonight. We're reacting to it tomorrow. Cannot wait. Let's go Tigers. See you tomorrow, 1 to 3.